Hey everybody, what is going on? Two amateurs playing. No, that's the wrong thing. Rebecca Minnick and Acebabie's 2024 Pro Tour Disc Golf Adventures. It's a long title, but it's worth it. Today, different day because we have travel tomorrow. Well, I don't, because you have travel tomorrow.
Yes.
So we was like, you know
We're
what?
gonna we're gonna stop in. Yeah, we're traveling tomorrow, so I didn't know. And you never know how travel days are gonna go when you're gonna get back, and it's usually really late. So, and spotty service and stuff along the way. So it's not a good idea to plan a podcast during a travel day. But we're gonna drop by St. Louis. And visit a family member for lunch, and then I may play a league actually with Ashley Pickett tomorrow in St. Louis at Unger, I think is what it's called. So we'll see. I've never played there before, so I'll just play a random league blind tomorrow afternoon. It's like a flex start league, I believe.
Nice. I've never been to St. Louis. I've always wanted to go up to the big arch there, the gateway to the west. That just
Nice.
seems
Yeah,
like.
I've been through there
Mhm.
numerous times, but I've never really stopped there. Andy lived there for a while.
All right. First off, because we always got to start with the business section of it. We're almost at 900 subscribers. Very
Wow.
close. Very close. In the last, um,
Popular. You must be doing something right.
or people are watching to make fun of me, which is possible, but that's okay.
I won't tell.
Yeah, that's right. But we're very excited about that. When we get to 1,000, we're looking at maybe a giveaway. I might give away one of my discs. I don't know. We might do that. So that's
That would be
exciting.
pretty cool.
Speaking of discs, Rebecca's fundraiser disc. Let's hear them. Let's see them. Let's discuss them.
All right. So this is my design. The lotus flower, of course, is, the a key point of that. And I did all of this in Illustrator. So, yeah, love it. Kind of simple, but means a lot. And the lotus flower, I've mentioned this before, but it represents like rising out of adversity. And I've definitely had a lot of trials to go through, as many of you following along have as well. A lot of health issues throughout my life. Grad school, anybody knows that's a big trial, but just growing and becoming stronger throughout all of that. And then disc golf has definitely been a huge learning and growing experience for me in general. So this design is very meaningful to me. And then the other fundraiser disc is a design by Judge Havoc, and I absolutely love what he did with this. I'm a very, very colorful, bright person, and so he incorporated a lot of very vibrant, awesome colors in there, and then also the music notes, which I love. I love listening to and reading books, and then the tusks here are chains actually for basket. And then we have the butterfly. Butterfly is meaningful as well. We have hummingbird. The lotus flower is kind of like the crown for the elephant. We have the elephant, and then just a beautiful scenery, and then my PDGA number. So I love what he did with this design. If you're interested in having a disc design done, then definitely reach out to Judge Havoc. He does an amazing job. And if you're interested in either one of these, then please reach out to me on social media, or reach out to Daryl, and I'm sure he'll put you in contact with me.
100%.
And
And
on top of that, I have very, very exciting news.
huh?
So, Disc Golf Pins is one of my sponsors, and I worked with Nina to design a disc golf pin, and those have been shipped to Emporia, Kansas, which is where I'm going next for the Dynamic Disc Open, and very excited to see those. It's the same design, but there's like two color schematics. And so I'm very, very excited about that. So I'll be posting more information about all of that very soon. And hopefully I'll show them to you on next week's podcast after DDO. And then finally, I also am having some ceramic or like porcelain minis made by Shane Phillips. He is owner of Drink, Rinse, Repeat. He's out of Texas and he does a lot of ceramics and did hundreds and even like over 1,000 different like goblets, cups, like different ceramic porcelain things for NADGT over the years and other tournaments. I think he's doing like all of the trophies for Las Vegas this year. So he's been working on all of that. He sent me a ton of pictures. So, go check him out. Or if you're interested in some cool trophies or maybe prizes for your tournaments, then let him know. But anyway, he's making those for me. So I'm excited about that as well.
Well, you have
So more fundraiser things. So lots of options and ways to support me on my 2024 disc golf tour.
Will you have a link for him? I can put a link for if anybody wants anything.
Oh, yeah, I definitely, I'll get with him. I know that he hadn't done a lot with his webpage, but I believe he was working on that and has something updated. So I will get with him and then give that to you and you can put that in the caption.
All right, you send me that and I'll add that below. Post.
Yes.
It's pretty exciting because I didn't get to know all these fun details.
Yes, lots of stuff in the works. This year, I will also be having fundraiser discs made via Neptune discs. So I will have all of the 3 new discs that were made last year: the Splash, the Nautilus, and the Marlin. And then the the Splash is in the Bass and the Pearl Plastic, and then the Pearl Plastic is also used for the Nautilus and the Marlin. So, yes, Chuck, that's what. So it'll be this stamp, but it will just be black and white is the plan. So they're working on that now, and as I get more details, I'll let you guys know about that.
Todd has 0 pins.
You have 0 pins. Well, I guess we're gonna have to fix that.
I've got Batman and Harley Quinn.
And hopefully soon Acebabieee.
I feel that happening.
Yes.
That's awesome. Okay. One thing you mentioned this week that I did not know. This was not covered, I don't believe, on our Disc Golf Chat podcast. You run marathons.
There's a lot of things that people don't know about me. I've done a lot of different things. I've run blood drives. I've done a lot of different things. But yes, I have run 10 marathons.
Nice.
And multiple half marathons, 5Ks. I ran a 10K, and almost all of those were in grad school, actually. All of my marathons were during grad school, and then I haven't run one since. I mean, I haven't been out of grad school for that long. It would have been May of 22, I believe, that I finished up with grad school. But I decided that I'd like my knees to last a little bit longer. So I figured it was maybe a good idea to not run more marathons. I mean, I remember even after I ran my very first marathon, and part of the reason I did it was because 2 of my older siblings ran a marathon, and then I was like, well, I'm like more athletic than them, and if they can do it, I can do it too. And my oldest brother told all of us, so I'm one of 9 kids, and he told all of us that if anyone wanted to run the marathon the following year, that he would pay for our registration fee, which is like a minimum of $85, and it like goes up as you wait longer and longer. So I had just started grad school, and I was like, well, I played like a lot of sports casually and for fun, and like intramurals and stuff in undergrad, and so I really wanted to stay in shape. So my way of doing that was, 1, to train for a marathon. My very first year. And then the other thing I did was in undergrad, I discovered ultimate frisbee. And so when I got to grad school, I started an ultimate frisbee group in Blacksburg, Virginia, which is still running actually. And I ran it for like 10 years. It was amazing. It was so
Go
much fun.
Who's.
That was like my pride and joy, was my ultimate frisbee group. I'm still like so proud of them. And love ultimate frisbee, and I definitely miss it. And it helped keep me in shape during
Yes.
grad school, but also was just a fun and encouraging and really good community. Like we had a good group.
Yeah. I mean, like for me, it's like mixed martial arts. When I got into that group of mixed martial arts, when we first got going, we had this awesome group. And I don't know about you, but like when I missed the day, I always felt like, oh, they're getting ahead of me. Like, I want to be there every day because I don't want to, have a step behind anybody. So you just want to keep going and keep pushing. So yeah. And as Charles said, yeah, I definitely encourage babying your knees.
Yeah.
Yeah. The older you
Yeah,
get, the more that they do not like stuff.
yeah. It's kind of crazy because I don't eat a lot. I'm careful. I try to be careful with what I eat, or like the quantity of certain things that I eat. And I've had to do that over the years because, like in 2010, I was hospitalized and I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis and like had a bunch of stomach problems. And over the next 10 years, I really had to change my diet a lot. And I think we may have talked about that previously. But one of the things that I figured out, and this may not have been until years later, it may not have been until like 2019, or maybe it was earlier, I don't know, something or somewhere around then. But I found out that eating tomatoes is like high in, I guess, lectins and some other things, me a lot of inflammation. And so
Yes.
at 25, I had joint pain, all the time. And even like 20 to 25, I would always have joint pain. But I stopped eating tomatoes and I don't have any joint pain and haven't for years.
Nice.
It's crazy.
Nice.
So if you have a lot of joint pain, then maybe try not eating tomatoes for a while and see if it helps. Who knows?
I did the Virginia 5 miler. They also had the 10 miler here in Lynchburg, Virginia. And we had marathon runners coming from all over that did that. And they always said that was one of the toughest 10 milers they ever did because we're known as the Hill City for a reason.
I ran a half marathon, a trail half marathon in West Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just up and down the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole time. It was awful, and I did not have the right shoes for it. They had like no tread. I really was in over my head. It was a bad idea. But I finished, but by the end of it I had blisters at least like this big on both feet, multiple blisters that were huge and massive. But I finished, so there you go. That just shows my determination and my distaste for quitting anything.
Yes. My dietitian, when I was on dialysis and everything, and I was training for these things, she gave me multiple bits of advice, but one in particular about shoes. She said, when you first get your shoes, be sure you break them in good before you do an event. Because if you have brand new shoes and you start with them, you're gonna have some nasty blisters, especially like on the back of your foot.
Yep, that's what I did, but also
Yep.
they just weren't the right type of shoes for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it had rained some, and so it was sketchy in a lot of places where you were running. I had no business running that half marathon in like sneakers, pretty much just like road shoes, maybe.
All right.
Oh well, you live and learn.
Yes. Sometimes we learn too much that we should have already known, but that's okay.
That's okay.
All right. Now, speaking of mud and stuff, you entered your first major as an FPO player. And there was a lot of rain. There was a lot of mud.
Yes. Especially on Friday. Friday was insane.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've never, like hole 14 in particular, but just in general, but hole 14, I mean, I have never played in that much intense wind in my entire life. It was insane. We were definitely pretty nervous about playing in those conditions because even just while we were playing on hole 14, like a branch fell down.
Yeah. They did say they in a couple of holes, oh, I know at least one, that they roped off an area because of danger of tree falling and limbs falling. It's like,
Yes. And I think that was before any of that happened. Like
mhm.
before they knew, it was just like, okay, this is a dead tree or almost dead tree. So we're gonna, or it was like leaning down. But these were, more healthy trees. It's just the wind was so violent and so intense that there were just limbs and branches, falling down. And so we were definitely nervous and pretty scared. It did calm down significantly after like 30 minutes maybe after we started. So we stopped at around 10:30 a.m. I believe, and then we didn't start back again until like 5 hours later at close to 3:30, like right before 3:30.
Oh. Yeah, because when I was watching it, and well, you know what? Let's get to second round when we get to second round. Let's
Yeah.
start at the beginning at first round.
Start at the
What?
beginning. First round was a much better round than the second round.
Yes. First off, Rebecca Cox, Raven Klein, and Lexi Marks. You and Lexi must become best friends by now.
Yeah. Yeah, she was kind of quiet and a little more reserved, so I didn't get to talk to her a whole lot. She was kind of like lower energy. In fact, that's sort of how the whole card was second round. But it was cold conditions, so definitely people tend to be a little more, maybe less chatty. But the first round with Rebecca Cox and Raven, especially Raven, she likes to be goofy and sing a lot, which I love that as well. So I'll just join in. She was on a commercial song kick. So she would just sing like any commercial song. And then I brought up SpongeBob. And so we started singing a bunch of different SpongeBob songs. And then it went into other things. So we were just singing like half of the round or talking about random funny things. So that was really fun. I enjoyed that. I played with Raven twice before. I played with her one round at Texas State, it's round two, I believe, and then I played with her first or second round at the Open at Austin. And so this was my third time playing with her. Whereas Rebecca Cox, I had never played with before. And of course, Rebecca Duffy was there at hole one. So we had the three Rebeccas as tradition last year at the Las Vegas Challenge. That was my first Disc Golf Pro Tour event ever. And the three of us got a picture there too. So it's the Rebeccas, we're all fighters.
That's awesome. Hey, before long, you we have what's her name, Rebecca Dunn. Rebecca Dunn. She might be up there with y'all.
Yeah, definitely. No, yeah, for sure. She's from Canada, right?
I don't know. I think so. I know I
I
followed
think
her
so.
on Instagram
If
and
it's the one
young,
I'm
young
thinking
player.
about, she won FJ18 at
Yes.
US Women's.
Yes.
Then.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, one thing I did want to say about Lexi is she has an arm on her. She can throw really, really, really far. When she hits her lines, I mean, her disc just goes and goes and goes. She has some crazy power.
That's awesome. See. I wish they had a way like you can just pick groups to watch on TV. That'd be awesome. But I mean, they just don't have enough cameras, I guess.
Yeah, it was awesome also watching Rebecca Cox, and
Hmm.
really cool to see how she was crushing it for a lot of the final round as well. I was really excited. I was like, yeah, I don't know if she ended it like the hot round, but I know at one point she had the hot round.
Hmm. She is
Um,
she is such a great player, and she seems like she has such a positive attitude when she's out there. But I've never personally met her. I'm just going by what I've seen and just watching her play.
yeah, she I didn't she seemed to stay pretty positive as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, she did. She had a very incredible round. And then Raven Klein, she's just fun to watch. So there's a lot of just touchy approach shots that she hits. It's just mwah, beautiful.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah, it's really cool, and some really funny videos on Instagram. So I appreciate
Okay.
those.
Nice. So, see, plus 11, 908 rating. So
Mhm.
tell me about that round. I got to find it.
So it shouldn't have started out bogey, bogey, bogey. That was kind of unfortunate. I did bogey, 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 then par, par, par.
Hmm.
So the first bogey, I had a really good drive. Um, and then it kind of hit a tree earlier on, but I was had like a tough lie, but still in position. And then I flicked the disc and it went to like edge of circle one or just circle two. I think it was still in circle one. And so I missed that putt and then had a tap and bogey. So I didn't play that hole poorly, but it's 455 feet. So and one thing that I found out very early on during round one, or maybe even partially during the one practice round that I did 2 days prior, was that since having my break over the last couple weeks and my health being not great, I guess I don't know if have I mentioned that I tested positive for Lyme disease on
I was
here?
just about to say that because that's why you had to drop out last week.
Yes. Yeah,
So,
so we didn't know why I was feeling so terribly. So Jonesboro, I had to drop out round two. I started the round feeling pretty terribly, like a very bad headache, and it just got worse and worse as the round went on to the point of where it was miserable even trying to play, trying to throw anything. And then that turned into like pretty extreme nausea. I ended up like throwing up. Just did not feel good. I was extremely fatigued. Like you know how you get tired from working and doing a lot. This was like another
mhm.
level, like 2 levels above that. It was just like no energy at all. And then there was like joint pain and muscle pain. It was just pretty much all of the symptoms of Lyme, except for I don't think I haven't had a fever ever that I know of.
I've had one. Don't
Um,
do it. It's not fun.
yeah. Yeah, no. So, yeah, so the next couple weeks were really rough for me. I didn't feel well. I was even having like just feeling really discouraged and really low, really down, because not only did I have to DNF from Jonesboro, so I had to drop, but then I made it to Nashville for the Music City Open on Tuesday evening, and we went straight to the course, and I had a practice round at the course, which was very brutal course. I can talk about that more later, maybe. And then I'm still just feeling terribly. Like I made it through the round, but it was really rough. It was a rough course anyway, but especially feeling as poorly as I felt. But I was still going to try to play the tournament, and I just couldn't. So by Thursday, that's when I went and got tested. For Lyme, and just had blood work done to see if like anything else was going on, because I didn't know for sure I had Lyme. I was just like, well, I know I had a tick on me that was attached, and I know I'd found multiple ticks walking around on me. So by Thursday I contacted the TD, Zach Hoy, and he helped me with like withdrawing, and everything was super kind, super helpful, so I was really appreciative of that. um, and yeah, then so I had to withdraw from another one tournament. But at that point, it's like I'm resting a lot, but all your body is trying to do is just like recover, recover, recover. So by the time I get to Champions Cup, I practiced on Tuesday. So I got here Monday evening, I believe, and then practice Tuesday. And I thought about practicing Wednesday, but I was like, that's just not a good idea. Like, even on my practice round on Tuesday, I threw less shots than I ever throw in a practice round. Like, if I had a good throw, I was like, that's good. That's all I'm throwing on this. I'm not doing anything more, because I knew that how fatigued my body was. And it was definitely not anywhere near back to 100%. And I was even concerned about being able to handle the weekend, um, with how my body was feeling. And at the time, I was also thinking that all of us were going to have 4 rounds, because apparently last year everyone had 4 rounds and there wasn't a cut. But and I believe that's how they were originally planning to do this tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But since there was going to be such bad weather and supposed to be thunderstorms and lightning and all of that, that was the reason why from the very beginning they decided to have a cut on after the third round, in order to ensure that they got the 4 rounds in. Which also led to the guys having 2 rounds on one day, which is insane at a
Yeah.
course like Northwood Black. Like,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely insane. I feel bad for them. Although I did think it was kind of, I don't know if I should say funny, but that they had to get up like super early and start their round, whereas I'm like really used to that. It's just funny how much they complain, where they're like, oh man, I have to get up super early. I'm like, I have to get up at like 4 or 5 every single morning. I play it
You
earlier
know who I
though.
felt bad for?
Who
Brian
then?
Earhart. He was on course commentator. He had to walk with the men in the morning, then the women, and then back with the men again. I felt
That's
bad for
true.
him.
That's true. That's true. Brian was a trooper.
Brian is awesome. I love listening to him talk. But anyway,
Yeah.
I interrupted. Sorry.
Anyway, so that's all leading up. That's kind of the long story leading into round one. And one thing that I figured out from taking that time off, because I had started gaining a lot of confidence with my backhand
Mm-hmm.
and confidence in like getting my power back and how I felt about it, because it was just feeling terrible and feeling off. Well, I kind of, because of this break, sort of reverted back to that, where my backhand again was feeling really off. I had wasn't able to have really any confidence in it. I tried, throwing the backhand a good number of times, but it just never really seemed to work out. It didn't seem like my aim was going very well. Like, the power was, it just a lot of different things that I needed to work through, and I essentially did not have time to work through it. And you cannot be that off at Northwood Black. You just can't.
Yeah.
You're going to end up every round with scores like in the 20s and 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay, let me ask you
so
one question before we go down this road. Because when you talk about the tick bites, one thing I was wondering, and I've been wondering this for a while, do the pros and yourself wear a lot of sunscreen, bug spray, tick spray, all that stuff out there? Because being out there in the sun all the time, I always worry about that.
yeah, so a lot do. I mean, I can't really speak for other people, but I
Mm-hmm.
do know that a lot of people, I often wear a lot, like 3 or 4 or 5 different types of bug spray.
Yeah,
But
'cause
I
that's
didn't
me.
that tournament because we had to park so far away that like I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have any of my stuff. And so it's really hard to prepare when
Mm-hmm.
when you're like bundled up in 5 layers of clothes and your car is parked far away. What are you going to like spray yourself on the outside of your 5 layers? Probably not. So it
Okay.
doesn't work the best.
Okay.
Sunscreen, I don't usually wear, but I also don't burn a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a problem with that this week, and I was actually started using my umbrella when the sun finally did come out, because the back of my hands and my face were the only things that were showing. But
Yeah.
since I'm on the doxycycline, which is the antibiotic for Lyme's disease, it makes your skin really sensitive. So my hands were literally burning. Like, I didn't even get I haven't gotten a sunburn, no sunburn at all, but my skin was burning in the
Mm-hmm.
sun. Like, even the sun just touching it and it was burning. And so I was trying to use my umbrella as much as possible to keep the sun off of me. It was bizarre. Like, I had had doxy before, but I'd never, I guess maybe I just wasn't out in the sun enough at that
Mm-hmm.
time to experience these symptoms from the sun.
Yeah. See, me having had kidney transplant and some of the medicines I'm on, my doctors always say sunscreen, 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 because I am more apt to get melanoma, and I do not want that. So lots of sunscreen whenever I go out. So I always just wondering if the pros do that. They're
Yeah,
always
I
younger and
definitely
healthier than me, so
need.
I can understand why they probably wouldn't.
Yeah, I definitely need to use sunscreen more. I think it's a good idea. It's definitely a
Mhm.
good idea to use more
Mhm.
sunscreen. So yes, use more sunscreen.
Okay, now back into round one. I apologize for that break, but I was just curious about that.
No worries. um. Anyway, so I figured out pretty early on I didn't really have a backhand. So for almost the entirety of all 3 rounds, I mostly just used my flick. Even on holes that it would have made sense to use a backhand, I just did not feel confident with it, and I felt much more comfortable with my forearm. So that's what I would use. I was very happy that on round 3, I finally was able to gain a little bit of confidence about my backhand. I was like, you know what, this shot really does need to be a backhand like flex shot. So I will use that. So I had some really good backhand throws that I used in the 3rd round. So I was happy about that, especially at that level, to be in that situation where you have to decide in the moment, like, hey,
Mhm.
should I trust this and use throw a backhand, or should I use my forearm? So that was cool. But for the most part, I used the flick. So then we go into hole 2. Had an absolutely gorgeous drive. I think it may have been the best drive of the group, possibly. And then I think this was the one. Sometimes the rounds kind of get mixed in my head, but I'm pretty sure
Mhm.
I uh, threw it straight down the gap. Or is this the one that I hit? I can't remember. We'll just say this was the round. I went straight down the gap, and then no, this was the one I hit to the side. So I just misfired on my flick and I hit to the side, and then I had to throw out. I also went the OB kind of not OB, but off in the rough to the left,
Mhm.
and then I had a beautiful flick out with my zone and parked the basket pretty much, or was really
Nice.
close to it, and then made the putt. On a different day, this was actually day 2. I was kind of getting them mixed up because day 2, I was misfiring with my Berg left and right, which usually I throw my Berg really, really well. And it's an extremely reliable approach disc. But for some reason, the 2nd round, this was not the case. For the 1st round, I believe it was fine and I was doing much better. But that's just an example of, like, I threw an amazing drive. I was set up. I was in the middle of the fairway. I should have been an extremely easy approach drive to get pretty close to the basket or to the basket, and then have an easy pitch up and then put the disc in, probably be at like circle 2. But that was not the case. And then hole 3 is just something similar, a couple things like to the side, and not executing super well and getting myself a double bogey in that case. And then cleaning it up some more, and the rest of the round I had a much cleaner round that I was pretty happy with. Still I did get a triple bogey on hole 9, but other than that, it was just a few bogeys, which
Yeah.
honestly often just for me feel like pars on a lot of those holes.
Yeah,
Um,
I was looking at the back 9. You look like you played very well.
mhm. Yep. So only I was 8 over after the front 9, and then the back 9 was only 3 over.
Hmm.
So if I could have played the front 9 like the back 9, then um, I would have been in much better shape. But that's okay. After day 1, I felt extremely confident about the course, and
Hmm.
I knew I had done fairly well. got over a 900 rated round, which I was happy with, but I was also like, okay, I can do a lot better than this, you know.
Did you abandon the
And
Berg or bench it for a while?
no, so the Berg was actually off the second day.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, I was thinking for some reason it was the first day, but it was actually the second day.
I mean, could that just be the weather that day? Because the weather was brutal.
No, it was me.
No, it was the disc.
I mean, it was, I'm not saying the weather didn't impact it some, but these were like, there wasn't much wind in that area. They were very basic approach shots with the Berg, not that far. And I would throw them like circle two short. So I would give myself a circle two putt.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even put it in circle one.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about throwing it from like 80 feet, 100 feet, something
Oh
like
gosh.
that. Like very standard, very basic approach shots. And a lot of times I'm on and I throw the Berg like nobody's business and I park it at the basket. But for some reason, I just could not figure it out. And I probably lost a minimum of 8 strokes, but probably even maybe even more than that, just by throwing my Berg poorly. And maybe, you know, you could say, well, why didn't you just abandon that disc and just
Mm-hmm.
not use it? But, you know, to me, it's like, okay, well, I also want to be able to figure out how to fix something that's broken during a round.
Yep.
And so I don't think the answer always is, well, let's just abandon that disc, you know, because that disc is an amazing disc and I throw it really, really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
And why I couldn't figure that out during that round, I don't exactly know why, but like I'm working through it. So after the first round, I went through every single hole in my head and exactly how I wanted to play it with what disc. I made some adjustments on a certain holes where I was like, okay, that one I should have just done this, or like I want to be in this position. So we'll tweak that up. And I think that can be a really valuable tool is to play the entire course in your head. And I actually even had like I forget her name, but a lady reach out to me and say, you know, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but you know, this is what I've done in the past. And I was like, yeah, I was like, I do that as well. Like I'll play the course through my head. And one thing she said that I don't, I don't usually say, but I thought was valuable is, you know, allow yourself to have a perfect round. Like in your head, allow yourself to play the course exactly how you would want to play it perfectly and have the best score possible for your game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so yeah, so I went into day 2 feeling very positive, very confident. So to end up, um, yeah, it maybe should have been canceled, or at least we
Yeah.
probably shouldn't have started back when we started back. It was
No.
unsafe.
Because
So
when y'all come back, I saw, you know, they're obviously they're only showing lead card or chase card, but
yeah,
I mean, the trees were just like whipping around. I mean,
yeah,
you can't play in that. You just can't. And like Charles said, many other sports they would just been like, we're shutting it down.
yeah. They probably should have. I do not know why certain people were so determined to have 4 rounds
It's a major. I
instead
think that's
of
why.
just allow. I mean, they don't have to. They could have done it. They could have had the 3 rounds.
Yeah.
But you know,
Yeah. And many
at some
sports.
point, it's like, when does our safety stop mattering?
Mhm.
Like, I don't know.
I mean, to me, if they come back, gosh, I think about an hour later, I think that would have been better.
Yeah, because by the time, so we started back on, we were the first card out. So
Mm-hmm.
we started back on hole 14. So 5 holes left. And by the time we got to like hole 17, to 18, the
Hmm.
sun was coming out. It
Hmm.
was cool. Like I was starting to get really hot in what I was wearing. The wind was dying down. It was beautiful. It was like, ah, here we are, nice weather. So I was kind of frustrated by that because I was like, man, I want everyone else to have to play in the terrible,
Yeah.
it was still bad, but it was just so much better
Hmm.
than what we had to deal with. It was like night and day. I think hole 14 was still like pretty rough for most people, even though it wasn't quite as intense. But yeah, so that was just, man, it was just, that was an extremely mentally brutal round for me.
Hmm.
Um, Started out all right. I got par on the first hole, which is a difficult hole, can be a pretty difficult hole to par. Um, and then hole two, I actually started out the round really well.
Hmm.
Um, I made a really, I'm pretty sure I made a really good putt to save par on hole one. And then hole two, the only reason I had that bogey is because I had the terrible Berg approach shot. So I had beautiful drive, beautiful approach shot. I'm in position. I'm exactly where I want to be to have a very easy par. And then I just short the Berg approach shot. Not only was it short, but it was short and right. And so I
Hmm.
really didn't even have a line. I couldn't even really attack it from, I was just outside of circle one, like in circle two, but there were trees right in front of me. So I couldn't even try to save par really. So I had to lay up, and then that was first bogey. Then the same exact thing happened on hole three. I was again like 140 feet away, and I threw the Berg in the ground, like middle of circle two. And so, of course, I missed that putt, and then I got the bogey. And then 4 and 5, I played pretty well, and then 6 and 7 is where it really started kind of like getting
On 4 and
rough.
5, were you driving all the way to the green on those?
So on four, uh, no, so four, I was actually pretty far to the, I believe I kicked kind of off the fairway and sort of in a rough spot, and I just had a
Hmm.
really good approach shot with my hex, I believe.
Hmm.
And then I put it, and I had a good putt. Like every single round, my putting was pretty good.
Nice.
I, one takeaway from this whole weekend, and this is something that I don't know if I could ever say about a tournament ever, but I'm very happy to be able to say it about this tournament, is that I felt really good about my putting every single round. Um, which was awesome to be able to put that together, because it just seems like, maybe I'll have like 2 out of 3 rounds that my putting's good, or maybe 1 out of 3 rounds that my putting's good. But very rarely will I feel like every single round my putting was solid, my putting was good. But I felt very good, very confident. Even my misses were good misses. And I was pretty happy with that.
Okay.
So made a good putt to save par there, but I also made a good approach shot to put myself in position to be able to save par. And then on 5, I believe that's the one that's like over the chasm, I think. Yeah. And I parred that hole every single round, which I was very excited about, because you can definitely hit trees early and go OB.
Hmm.
So it's easy to get a 4 or, maybe even a 5 on that. So parred that every single round. And then yeah, then it just started going downhill, and like I said, so many different times that I gained strokes because I didn't throw my Berg very well. And then we'll get to my what I am calling the abominable snowman, the 888, and that is from my husband's term for it, Andy. Because I was trying to think, I was like, well, they call 3 birdies a turkey. So would this be like a turkey snowman? And he's like, no, it's the abominable snowman.
The
So I
abominable
like that because
snowman.
it's 3 snowmen. 3 snowmen. It's the worst thing you want to see on the disc golf course, essentially. So it's the abominable snowman. I thought it was pretty perfect.
That's great.
So I've never done that before, I don't believe, unless maybe I did it like when I first started playing, possibly. But started out with a 12 on with hole 12, and part of that was just really unfortunate, and that also led into hole 13 and why it happened on hole 13 too. Um, so I had a really good drive on hole 12, but got a bit unlucky, as what happens often in disc golf, and it hit a tree and it dropped down to where the bridges kind of intersect there. You go like down the one bridge and then up to the little platform there on hole 12. So
Hmm.
I'm like right at the center in between. That's where my disc is. So I don't have much space. So I put my bag up behind me on the platform, and then I hit my bag with my hand. I don't think the disc actually hit it, and then it went down. There were some calls. It wasn't actually called correctly, but I didn't know that until later on, until it was too late. And then, of course, we had the whole break and everything, and so I really didn't like it. After you have a 9.5, 10-hour round, the last thing you want to do is argue about a stroke that you got 7 hours prior.
Yeah.
so, so anyway, but so then my disc went like right in front of me. So I flicked up to like the base of the hill, then I threw backhand up a little bit further, and then I flicked to close and then tried to get it next to the basket and then made the putt or whatever. But by that time it was a 7 and then an 8 with the stroke for hitting my equipment.
Mm.
Then hole 13. So I didn't figure out about that. I didn't even realize that it was a stroke. I wasn't informed until the next hole, which then that got me really upset because I'm like, okay, like I didn't even know that, because I'm sitting there thinking I have an 8 or a 7, and I don't have a 7, I have an 8. And so my drive was just terrible. Like I wish I would have been able to like be more okay with it in that moment, but I just didn't do a very, like I got over it pretty quickly, but it wasn't quick enough to be able to get that under control to have like a good drive on hole 13. So it kind of like messed me up a lot. And I also hurt my finger pretty badly. Like I smacked my bag really, really, really hard. And I was kind of worried that I broke it or something, but I'm pretty sure now it doesn't really hurt now. So I think we're all good. But I was definitely worried that I like sprained or broke my finger when I hit my bag so hard with how badly it was hurting at the time.
Mhm.
So I had a bad drive. Then really all I could do on 13 was pitch out, because I didn't really have an opportunity to get myself in position to go across the pond on hole 13. So then I did another approach shot to put myself right at the edge of the pond, executed that really well. So I had 2 great approach shots, one to the green and then one to set myself up to go across the pond and then to putt into the basket. And then this is another example where I failed myself with the berg, and I threw it and didn't even get across. It was short by like a few feet and in the water. And so, yeah, so now I'm throwing, so drive 1, 2, fairway, 3, edge, 4, 5 to OB, and then I'm throwing 6 again from the other side of the
Mm-hmm.
ponds. And again, like, well, I'm like, okay, well, I don't have my berg because I really wanted my berg for that shot. And I was like, well, I don't want to short it. So I was using my zone. And then I threw it like circle 2 past the basket in the crap, past like to the left of it and back.
Yeah, that's the
And so
comic
then, of
miss on that one
course,
to go long.
yeah. So then I missed the putt, of course. And then I putted in for 8. So that was my second 8. And then we got to hole 14. Two people drove, so it was Danny and Jennifer both made their drive, and then they sounded the horn for the weather delay. And by that point, so if you don't know this course, it takes like 15 to 20 minutes just to walk back to Tournament Central or to hole 1 from hole 14. At hole 14, you are the farthest away you can possibly be. So not only was it like cold, I had forgotten my umbrella, so it had been raining. I was getting rained on. I had multiple layers. I was getting soaking wet, like it was soaking through. One good thing about the break was that my clothes were able to kind of dry, and I was able to get my umbrella. And I was also kind of able to reset from everything. But what a terrible thing to be thinking about for like 5 hours, you know, how terribly I was doing and what my score was.
Yeah.
You know, go with 5 holes still left to play, knowing that I can't really birdie most of these holes, you know, so I'm not going to recover a lot of those. Anyway, that was rough. But it was a good reset. I was very cold. I was exhausted. I mean, I do not sleep well in cars, but I was falling asleep in my car and like setting my alarm for every like 15, 20 minutes so I could keep track of the updates and everything. And then finally, like an hour and a half later, they sent us a message saying, okay, we're not going to start back until 1 to 3 p.m. So that gave me like a little over an hour at least. So I was saying, okay, well, I'll go to Culver's, which was right down the road. And like everybody and their brother was at Culver's. Like everybody was there. So many pros. They were all went to Culver's. It was the place. It was the hopping place. And there were a lot of other random people there. It was just busy. There were a lot of people at Culver's on Friday.
This episode is not sponsored by Culver's.
Yeah, no, it's not.
I
If you
wish it
want to
was, though.
sponsor us, then you know.
Yes, just get in touch with one of us. We'll sponsor it. Yes.
The food was delicious. It was. Anyway, so I got my food. I waited what seemed like an eternity to get my food. And finally went to the bathroom because I needed to pee for a really long time, but I was just like waiting in my car. I didn't go anywhere. So that was nice. And then I drove back to the course, parked, and then slept on and off again until I needed to get up and then walk all the way back to our hole. So I get started, and I feel better. Like I was in a much better mindset. I was ready to finish the last 5 holes strong, even though I hadn't played very well for the rest of the course. I still wasn't feeling great, but you know, I was gonna persevere and push through. So then hole 14 ended up being an 8, which honestly didn't feel bad. Jennifer actually got a 10 on that hole, and she didn't
The
feel
wind on that hole is brutal.
it's normally brutal.
Yeah.
This was insanity. Like our discs were blowing back at us. I even have it on it's on my post. It was on one of my stories on Instagram, and you can see at the very end of like Jennifer's throw where she hits a tree and then the disc starts the disc starts coming back towards us.
Because you see her just like look back.
Yeah, she's like I mean, I flicked my most stable grace that I have, which is pretty stable, and it turned into a roller almost immediately.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. There wasn't much that you could do. I was very happy with my 8. Like I really was happy with my 8. And then 15, I got the par, and then 16, just kind of a misfire, was off the fairway. Didn't get far enough up. Wait, is that 16? No, 16 actually had a pretty good drive, and it was, I wish it would have gone in the zone that they had marked off as mandatory hazard. But I was like just short of it, but back in the bush.
Is that the little island one? It's got like the wood around it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So I was really happy with my drive. I was like, yeah, that should be good. I should be in position. But I had like this tiny little narrow gap up, and it was a tough shot, and I was actually pretty proud of like how I executed it. I used a disc that I don't use very often. Um, and I almost hit, no, that was the next day. One of the days I almost hit like the camera person and the volunteer that was like standing there. Um, anyway, I had like a putt, but it wasn't like the most easy putt. So I tried to go for it. I missed it, and that's how I got the 4. And then 17 kind of misfired, and yeah, blah 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 blah. 18, I threw it into the ground again. It was just kind of like a rough round. I was ready to be done. Parts of it were good. I mean, I was still trying. I was like,
Hmm.
I'm here. I'm gonna try to do my best, but it was just like things were a little off a lot of the round. And this is one of those courses that you cannot be a little bit off. That's one reason why I didn't want to use my backhand. But you really can't be a little bit off. And unfortunately, that was the case. And to top it off, so like I just played poorly. I'm not gonna blame it all on the weather and on the
Hmm.
wind, although that certainly made it worse. Like it wouldn't have been a 23
All right.
just based on like me playing poorly. The weather certainly had a significant impact on it, but I was also not playing well, and I knew that I wasn't playing well. And I think it's important to recognize that, because then it's not about like being upset with myself or being like, oh man, I just played like crap, like garbage, I need to do better. It's more of just recognizing like when you're on and when you're off, and what you need to try to do about it. So that entire round for me was all about, what can I learn from this in this moment? How can I grow from it? And then especially, how can I grow from it the next day?
Hmm.
So like it's so easy for something like that to get in your head, playing so terribly, feeling like, hey, I can't hit these lines. I can't get this. I'm just going to be off. And I could have very easily carried that into the next day, but I didn't. I still had
Right.
the same belief of, I can do this. I can play this course well. And I did. And I think I played even better than what my score showed the next day, and
Hmm.
I had my best round of the entire weekend.
Let's see. Round 2. Gosh, let me go back to my other page. Let's see. Round
Was
2.
Jennifer, Lexi, Danny, and myself
Mm-hmm.
were the people on the card that
Plus
day.
23, 847. But again,
Yes.
that's an
Ah,
anomaly. That's an anomaly.
847 is so
Use my
gross.
big words. Anomaly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I
Um,
still was 15 points over, an average of 15 points over my current rating for the event, thanks to my
yeah.
first and third round. So that was
Mhm.
nice.
I did want to mention one thing. I missed it when we were at round 1. Rebecca Cox, Eagle in 18.
Oh, yeah. That was
That was
amazing.
they actually showed that on camera. I was like, hey, where's Rebecca? I mean, good shot, the other Rebecca, but where's my Rebecca at?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was amazing. To eagle that hole. That's tough.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Now we can get back to round 3, because round 3 you started out really really well. You can tell that the mindset was better. Things are going. What do you think?
Oh man, I was killing it. Like I felt good. I felt confident. I felt ready. Um I will mention this, and this definitely impacted me later on, and you can kind of see it in my scores. But I actually started to get a pretty bad migraine on like hole 11.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like an ocular, I even had like an aurora in my eyesight. It was like a half moon that I could see that was like floating around, and my head
Wow.
was just pounding and pounding. And so like I tried to drink a lot of water, which made me need to pee a lot, which is frustrating when you're trying to do a round. I took some goodies powder. Tried to eat a bunch, like anything I could do to try to like get rid of the headache. It never really went away for the rest of the round. So that was another obstacle and another challenge that I had to battle during that round. And I was very proud of myself and like how
Mhm.
I was able to handle it and how I tried to stay focused, even though I was not feeling well. Um, but yeah, the first three holes, I mean, just awesome. I felt so good. Like my drive on hole one was the worst of any of the days. It wasn't terrible, but it was definitely like a really tough lie. And I put it to edge of circle one, and then I made the edge of circle one putt. Felt really good about it. Hole two, I did exactly like how I drew it out. I flicked it up to the opening, and then I had a second flick that was down. It was actually like circle two, but again, I was kind of out of position, so I couldn't really attack the basket and sort of had an awkward approach, but I did the approach with my berg. I stuck to my game plan, had a great approach, had a tap in par. And then hole three, played really well, did my flick. And then this is where I started. This was the moment on hole three was where I decided that I was going to trust my backhand, because I was at a point to where I saw the line and I was like, this line is 100% a backhand turnover line. And but I really didn't want to throw my backhand because I was not feeling confident with it. I did kind of make a little bit of a compromise, I guess, with myself. I used a disc that was probably a little, it was definitely more flippy than what I should have used for that turnover
Mhm.
line. Like I should have just done the Anheuser and had a little bit more of a stable disc so it would have come back. But I had a nice little tree kick at the end that put it back out. But I think even if I hadn't had that, it still would have been like fine. So I hit like a gap between two trees with the backhand Anheuser, went around. Um, then I did another backhand with a newer disc that I'm batting in the TD that was beautifully dyed by Dojo Dyes. Most of my dyes are done by Mooglee Dyes, and he does such an amazing job. Definitely check his stuff out. But also Dojo Dyes, he does a lot of really, really cool work. So that's a sweet. If you want to see all of these discs, all of Mooglee Dyes discs, then I usually put a picture of their discs up on a lot of my reels on
Mhm.
Instagram. But yeah, just have a lot of beautiful, beautiful discs in my bag. So anyway, did a backhand kind of like hyzer route, and I was really proud of myself because I stuck with the line. Like when you're doing a hyzer, you're supposed to keep that same line, and your arm just keeps going on the same trajectory around your body, kind of like a hula hoop, and it follows that line. And I did a pretty good job of like following that line. Whereas a lot of times when you're not feeling as confident, it's easy to like kind of pull your arm down,
Yep.
and not commit to the line that you're doing. But I felt like I was committing fairly well. And then I put myself circle two kind of behind a tree though, so I didn't really have a good look, and then did a little pitch up kind of approach with my original Mako, not a Mako 3, original Mako. I did not throw that one very well. I feel like just those little like in betweener, like tweener shots that are the circle 2, circle 3, where you just need the little spin. I haven't been doing super well, so I need to get out and practice those some more. So
Mhm.
I kind of gave myself a tough putt to save par on that one. But again, my putting came through for me. And although it should have been a tap in, I shouldn't have needed to rely on my putting. I was very thankful that my putting came through, and I was able to get the par on hole three, which is, it's almost an 800-foot hole. So very cool. And then hole four, I actually did decide to do the backhand on that one. It went pretty well. And on top of that, like, I think it would have been fine even if I hadn't gone the tree kick, but I also did get a tree kick that put me like more in the fairway, but it was still like right behind some trees. So I
Mhm.
had to do a high, like, flick approach, high hyzer line with my zone, and it landed right at the basket
Nice.
and just rolled away tiny, like tap in par. So that was easy. And then hole five, I decided to switch it up. So I'd use like kind of a throwaway disc the 2 days before, but then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just really go for this. I'm going to do a mid-range. And so I think I threw my buzz maybe, and it still ended up going more to the left at the end. So I was sort of like pinched off a bit, but I had kind of a high awkward line that I was able to attack, I believe, again with my zone and put it just like just maybe just outside of the bullseye or inside the bullseye, something like that. So I got the par on that one. And then I'm trying to think which is hole 6. Yeah, so hole 6, did the flick again. I think another flick. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did flick to the opening, then another flick that got me pretty far down the fairway. I don't think it was in circle 2, but it was like maybe 80 feet away. And then I believe I flicked my berg. I can't remember. It is recorded, like right close to the basket, made my putt, and then got the par on that. So I was like super. I may even be mixing up that hole from another day. I'm trying to think which one's hole 6. There's such long holes, and a lot of the holes have really long walks to
Yeah.
the next hole. So I found this course was much more difficult for me to keep the order in my mind at times. But yeah, to be even through 6 holes felt really, really good. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. This is going to be like a great round. Um, and it was a pretty great round. There were a couple rough spots. I'm trying to think what hole 7 was.
See, that's my thing. When not playing a course, I can never remember. Even though I watched 4 rounds on that course, I can't remember which hole is which.
Yeah, it's definitely tough with some of these. I'm trying to think which one is hole 7, 8. Anyway, getting to hole 12 again, like I said, I was already starting to feel that I was getting that bad headache, and I was getting the aurora and I mean, it was the migraine. It's the migraine I've had essentially since the Saturday of the Jonesboro Open. It is come and gone since then. And part of that is probably because my body's still battling some of the symptoms, and then some of it could even be from the doxycycline itself, because you can get like some adverse side effects from the antibiotics, and that can like take you out for a long time, and who knows how long like these symptoms are going to last just from getting the Lymes. The idea is that, or the hope is that I I found it quick enough that I won't have, or I hopefully won't have like long-term effects, but who knows exactly how long I'll be dealing with some of this now. Like I still feel much more fatigued than what I normally do, after a tournament weekend. And I know that this one was particularly exhausting and everything, but like today I slept in as long as I could. But when I woke up, I was like, okay, I'm going to try to like get up now. It was like 10 something, and I felt like a zombie. I did not feel very good. Like I'm feeling a little bit better right now, but it would just like hit me. So hole 12, I just kind of played it rough. Like I pretty much did the same thing where I ended up this time. I think I decided to do a backhand on this one, which I hadn't done on any previous round, and I ended up about in the same spot as I had the day before. And then my approach shot was still kind of off the fairway, and then had to like go up the top, and I just kept going like back and forth. So
How steep was the hills on that hole? Because they looked really steep.
yeah, that one. I mean, essentially, we just have that one.
Yeah,
It is really steep. It's
because you go
definitely a
over
steep
that
hole.
that like valley or gully or canyon,
Mhm.
and then it's just
Yeah,
it's a
what makes
huge
that
ramp going up there.
particularly hard is not the fact that it's so steep, although that is difficult. The
Hmm.
problem is that it's steep, and then it goes into this narrow, narrow fairway that
Hmm.
runs for like what, 250, 300 feet.
Yeah,
Um, so that's what makes it tough, because not only are you going uphill, but you have a very, very narrow landing zone. So you
Gotcha.
kind of have to decide, okay, am I going to go for this, or am I going to, play it more safe? And things like that. So I got a couple like unlucky kicks or not the best lies, and I didn't play it extremely well. But like I said, my head was really starting to hurt there, which makes it a lot harder to play disc golf. But I felt good about it. I felt good about, my entire round. And uh yeah, I was really happy with my approach shot on 17. I kind of hit low and went just off the fairway, and so I was still behind the drop zone area, and I had a really sweet flick hyzer approach shot with a stable glow wave that I have, and I put it just outside of the bullseye on hole 17 and then made the par. My my only like truly sad moment of that round, and I'm sure you know what this is gonna
Yeah,
be
yeah. I've
because
been
you've
waiting for this.
probably seen my stories already.
Mhm.
And that was missing one of the easiest birdie putts of my entire life. So I hadn't gotten a single birdie any of the rounds, and then here I'm playing hole 18 like a pro. I mean, I am a pro, so I play all the holes like a pro, I guess. Not really, not really. But anyway, I have just a beautiful drive, a beautiful approach drive. And then I almost throw it in with my zone. I switched last minute. I was going to throw the berg, but then it was like really gusting the wind. And I was like, I don't really trust the zone to hold up that well in the wind when we're going uphill and a hyzer. So I was like, I'll go to the zone. It was like so close to going in. I mean, it was beautiful. And it was really funny because a guy that was following along, and who was it? I think it was just a spectator that was there for Lexi, maybe. And I guess his wife plays as well, and he plays. And he was like, yeah, this is why my wife doesn't let me caddy for her, because, I would just say, like, just throw it in for the eagle. And he said that, like, right before I went up to throw into the eagle. And, like, he was talking to Andy, and they were, like, joking about it. And then I literally, like, I almost throw it in. He was like, see, I spoke it into existence. It almost happened. I was like, you kind of did.
Yeah.
So it was sort of funny that I almost got the eagle, but then I like wanted to cry because I missed. I mean, it was just outside of the bullseye. It was such an easy putt, and I think I just took a tiny bit too long and really I just let myself overthink it too much, and then I hit the top of the basket, and then dropped down. So it was a tap in birdie, go to tap in par.
If you follow her on Instagram, you see her throw the putt, and it's like all the air just went out. She just turned around and looked at the camera.
It was a very sad
It's not
moment.
funny. It's not funny.
Yeah, it's not funny. It's not funny. Stop
Why am I,
laughing.
why am I giggling? I don't know.
Stop it.
I'm trying to make it better by giggling.
Anyway, that's really like, I'm honestly more sad about that than I am about round 2.
Mm-hmm.
About that little putt, because I had such a great round, and it would have been under double digits,
Mm-hmm.
and it would have meant that I wasn't tied for last place. And it was a lot of different things that one putt meant. And I think I knew that I know I knew that in my mind when I was putting it. So that was a part of kind of what got in my head. But really, it just gets down to taking enough time, but not taking too much time. That's what I found out for myself. Like, I need a little bit of time, but not much. And then I just need to go ahead and putt and not overthink it. And I just overthought it. And that's a part of the learning experience.
Yep.
So, but I'm definitely sad about it. And those are the putts and those are the things that I will remember for years and years. Like they'll be like, oh, you'll forget about that. No, I
Yep.
promise you that years down the road, even if I win a major in the future, I will remember that one putt that I missed at the final rounds of my very first FPO major.
You know what it makes me think of? It was Kristen at Champions Cup 2 years ago on 18. She had a chance to win and just blew up, and that fueled her. And I can see the same thing happening. It's going to fuel you.
Yes, all of these things fuel me. That second round, that fuels me. All
Mm-hmm.
of this, it fuels me to be better. I mean, I have that determination and that motivation anyway, even without those rounds. But those sort of things just make it more like when I have a round where I'm throwing the bird terribly, I'm like, what do you do? Like, you need to figure this out and know how to have that shot. When I have like a little approach shot, or not even approach shot, like a little, what would you call it, from the edge of circle two or like the middle of circle two, when you're just like a little, I don't know, I can't think of a good word
Some
for
people
that.
call it a jump putt. Some people,
Yeah, but I don't jump
I
putts.
don't jump putt either. But I think I don't know if they just call everything in that little range where it's not
I
a
think it
full
only
throw.
counts if you do jump putts. So there's got to be another word for it. Yeah,
Chuck
but
it.
within, I guess with it, we'll call it jump putt range.
Yes.
Within the
Yes.
jump putt range, I was like messing it up. And a part of that is a little bit like confidence, and I know I can do it. So like
Mm-hmm.
having things like that where I make those stupid mess ups, and even if I make the putt, still I shouldn't, to me, I'm like, I shouldn't be putting myself in a position where I have to make that putt. You know, I don't need to put that extra stress and pressure on myself. Like, I'm glad that I was able to make the putt, but I would rather park the basket and not have to make a putt, because I can get the jump putt distance or I can get the approach distance. You know, so many times um, on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, one of my biggest issues has been my approach game, you know. And my putting has definitely been on and off again, you know, it's been like up and down a lot. But I've been much more upset or like disappointed, I guess, in my approach game, where I'll have like amazing drives or I'll hit the lines just perfectly, and then I mess up an entire hole because I can't make a basic approach shot, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely something that has become very obvious, a point of um, improvement that I need to make.
So like the whole upshot game aspect of it, or
Uh-huh.
mm-hmm. Because I remember asking somebody, like if you're in like a certain range where you don't have a disc for that specific range, how do you really control that? And he was like, all you got to do, like, well, okay. Like one of the things he said is like a fan grip, so you're not trying to throw it as far. And I'm like, I can't control it when I do that, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think a part of it is I'm starting in rounds to kind of play with what I'm focusing on,
Mm-hmm.
because it used to be when I first started, I was much better with my approach game and even my longer approach, like more like drives, and I would get closer to the basket because I
Layup.
was just yeah, layup distance. Like, yeah, that could work, but that could
Mm-hmm.
also be for approach distance too, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. But that's a good one. Um anyway, I would rely on my intuition more to like know instinctively what do I need to do? How do I need to throw this? And some of that came from like my ultimate frisbee days and everything. And then I think I stopped just allowing my intuition to take over, and I stopped like focusing on the basket. Instead, I was trying to do like a math equation, a calculation in my head, like, okay, well, how much distance is this? So like, how much power do I need to put on the disc? Instead of just looking at the basket and being like, okay, what, like, you know how to do this, just do it, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And that's the balance of like okay, how much do I think about? Do I analyze? Do I break down this shot? And how much do I just go and do it? You know,
Now, are
because
you trying to make it or just trying to get it so you have an easy putt?
I'm usually just trying to park it,
Mm-hmm.
park it at the basket. I'm not usually
Right.
trying to make it, but I actually
Mm-hmm.
think that what I want to start doing more is approach it more of like I'm trying to make it,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Right.
That's actually what I've been thinking of lately. And I've had a lot of throw ins lately.
There you go.
So there you go. Yeah, during my practice round, um, I threw in from like 130 feet with my Berg on hole 2.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that was the 3.
You did show that one picture. I mean, that one video of you. You had a putt like around a tree, and you annied it in. I was like, I can
Yeah.
never do that.
I usually can't either. So
That
I was
was
just, and that was one of those moments where I was just like, okay, just think of this more like ultimate, just think of it more intuitively. Like I didn't put a lot of thought into it. I just
mhm.
did it. That's why I look back at the camera like, because I'm just like, well, okay, I didn't really even think about that much. I just went up and did it, and then it went in.
Nice.
So there's definitely something to, especially those of you out there who are real thinkers. You know, you just overanalyze everything. Sometimes it's better to just stop thinking.
Yeah,
You know,
turn it off.
just turn it off. Just let your body, let your arm. I mean, obviously, you need to put so much practice, so much time into it, and you have
Hmm.
to have like kind of an understanding and a feel for your disc. But at a certain point, once you've done put a lot of that work in, once you've played so many rounds and thrown so many throws, at a certain point, it's best to just turn your brain off in that
Hmm.
aspect and just pick your disc, know what line it is, and then just execute it
Yeah. Yeah.
without
Then
a lot
you
of
just give it
thought.
to your muscle memory.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, and our bodies and our minds like know distances in a really weird way. I found, like better than what we even know. I've seen that happen so many times. I've even seen it happen with like learning a lot of stuff in college. I remember the same thing. I was talking with someone just the other day about this with chemistry because so I'm a chemical engineer and I had actually never had a chemistry class before college. So I was homeschooled the entire time. We didn't have to have chemistry; it wasn't a requirement. And so Gen Chem was my very first chemistry class ever in college, and it was brutal. And I cried a lot because I was very I hated getting bad grades. Like, so I remember I had my first test and I got like a 60 on it, and I just
Ooh.
cried and cried because I was so upset about it. But there was another chemical engineering student. We ended up being really good friends, and he tutored me in chemistry and was like helping me out in chemistry. It's like a good story because later on I actually ended up tutoring chemistry for other people and math too, but I like math way better than chemistry. But anyway, he would help me with something and he would go over it and we'd work on it, and I would just get frustrated and get flustered because like I could not understand it while he was helping me, and then like a week later I would just know how to do it. Like I'd be totally fine. I'd be like, yep, I understand it all. So the way our minds, we don't really understand how our minds work sometimes, and there's a lot going on in that's not in our cognition that we are like seeing, recognizing, thinking about, but that's working in the background that is important to rely on sometimes during disc golf, I believe, and during a lot of things in life, I
Yeah,
think as well. You know, like intuition can be really important.
totally agree. Totally agree. So that was the end of your tournament, and you didn't make the cut. But next time,
No. Yep,
uh,
next time. We'll make the cut next time. I wasn't expecting to make the cut this time. I thought it was possible because everyone
mhm.
was like, oh, you got to believe it. I do believe that it's possible. I think that I could make the cut. I didn't this time. I wasn't super surprised about not making the cut, but I did know that it was possible.
Yes. When I was looking at the scores from the first round, I was like, yeah, you're not too far back there from the cut line.
Yep.
Of course, I didn't know there was going to be a cut line, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, we didn't know until the first day, but they did let us know in the mandatory players
Mhm.
meeting.
Um, you wanna run through some little headlines from this week?
Yeah, let's do it.
Andrew Presnell getting his first major win, and not only that, I think they said he's the first player to have a major since I think Ricky Wysaki's first major to have not ever been in the top 10 in any major.
Yep.
I was like, cool stat, good for him.
Yeah, that I was very excited. I actually did get to watch the last few holes of that. I didn't get to watch any of the last holes of like the FPO, although I have seen like, some highlights and things. But yeah, I was rooting for him from the very beginning, and Andy and I were like watching it together, and he was like, "Oh, he's got to like make this putt." And I was like, "He's going to make this putt." Or he would talk about someone else like, "Oh, is Calvin going to make this putt?" I was like, "Yeah, Calvin's going to make this putt." I'm like 14 or whatever. I was like, "He's going to make it. It's going to be tough because they'll win, but he's going to make it." And and these other things, and just seeing him go through there. And I don't know, I think to a certain extent, and I am definitely this way, but I really love rooting for the underdog. I love seeing someone who has, especially someone who's just been out there for such a long time and been playing disc golf for years and years and years, and hasn't ever seen a big win like this, let
Yeah.
alone a major, and then to be able to pull that out. And I think it also shows us an interesting thing of like aspect of the game of disc golf, and an interesting aspect in terms of where the pro tour is going, in terms of just having extremely open courses with no character to them, really. It
Hmm.
very boring. The only thing that it highlights in a player is whether they can throw the disc far, which, I'm
Hmm.
sorry, just gets boring after a
I
certain
totally
amount of
agree.
time. And I'm not like I definitely think that having distance should be an advantage. If
Hmm.
you have that power, like, you should have some advantage that that power brings, but it is not a substitute and should not be the only thing, or even the main thing, that is a determining factor as to whether you win. And one thing that Andrew Presnell mentioned in his interview afterwards was that he was able, because of the type of course, he was able to use his mid ranges a lot more, which is part of the advantage of, being a male player and having that power, is that, you can dish down to your mid ranges and stuff like that. A lot of times I still was throwing my drivers on pretty much everything up until the very end. So it didn't necessarily make a difference for me, but it would on a lot of courses. But there is a lot more control in being able to, use your mid ranges, your putters and stuff, but also to be able to see the players who do have that control. And obviously, Andrew Presnell has a lot of control over his discs, and that's what won it for him. And then also being able to keep a cool and level head, listening to him talk about that afterwards was really cool. So I love Northwood Black. I thought it was awesome. Like, I thought it was very challenging and tough and brutal, but it was fun. It was enjoyable. It was disc golf. It
Hmm.
was what disc golf should be.
Yep.
Disc golf should not be on a ball golf course.
I totally agree with that.
It
That I
should,
hate that.
yeah, it's stupid. We hate it too. Like, we don't, this is not enjoyable to just have to throw bomber after bomber after bomber after bomber.
Yeah.
Like, even a lot of the people who do have big arms don't like that either. But definitely those of us, that don't have 350, 400 feet, or more, especially as like FPO players, don't enjoy that. So I really hope that we can start getting some more championship level courses that incorporate the woods, or maybe, something like Music City Open in Tennessee, just have the women go to like Cedar Hill or something and have us play there, because at least that would be way better than, playing something like uh Millrid, I forget what it was called. But anyway, that was the uh not a great course.
See,
It was very well maintained, though. I will say that they did a
I was
really,
going for Antela.
yeah.
I was going for him, but
I
there's a
was going for
reason.
Fresno. I do like Angela as well, and I thought it would have been cool if he would have won, but he did already win one this year, so
But
I
there's
would
a
have been
reason.
happy with either.
One of the things that happened, Eagle made his return. Eagle McMahon did not make the cut.
Yeah.
Judging by the score, I never saw him play any. Must not have played that well.
Yeah, it didn't seem like he
Um,
did. I actually played a couple holes with him and his girlfriend during my practice round.
yeah, they seem really cool. By the way, they just seem
Yeah.
so chill, so laid back, just really good
Yeah,
people, man.
they do seem really chill. Like she seemed really nice. I didn't get to talk to him a whole lot. I
Mhm.
actually had dinner with him once with like a huge big group of like a lot of people, but I didn't really talk to him a whole lot, like a little bit, you know. But yeah, he seems pretty cool. I'm glad that he's back. I've always kind of been a fan of his. You know,
Mhm.
I'm not really a fan of anybody, but when I first started playing, he was on, you know, coverage in 2021, and you know, I saw him a lot. So to be able to, that was kind of like one of the first pros that, you know, you see as an amateur player. So I've always kind of like rooted for him, and he's obviously a very, very talented player. So I really hope he has more of a comeback and can start playing well. I'd love to see Eagle be playing well.
Yeah, I mean, I expect that anytime soon with him because
Yeah,
gosh, he's so good.
yeah,
So,
he's throws so far.
when when you have him out there bombing, and again, not on a golf course, on a disc golf course, in woods. Again, you have the couple open holes, great, but the way he throws in woods and stuff, the way Simon can throw in woods and stuff, it's beautiful to watch. Paul Macbeth. By the
Yep.
way, Pablo was there.
Yes, I got to meet Pablo. I got a picture with him and Hannah as well. And I got to chat with her for a little while. So that was really good. Actually, the very first time I met Hannah, officially, I was playing against her in a tournament in FPO. Of course, I wasn't like accepting cash or anything.
Mhm.
And I think there were like 4 or 5 of us. And Hannah and I shot the exact, she was like 900 something rated. I don't know. I was probably like 840 something, or I don't even know what it was. But anyway, we played the exact round, both courses. So we tied each other
Oh,
and we went into a sudden death playoff against. So I always, and I beat her on hole one. So I always say that I beat Macbeth.
yes, yes. Paul's brother still lives around here. So anytime anybody beats John Macbeth, everybody's like, "Hey, we beat Macbeth."
Macbeth. Yes, I actually know John. We both like follow each other on Instagram too. I've met him a couple times. He's a cool guy.
John's a good dude. I've gotten to
Yeah,
meet him many times around and stuff. Good
yeah,
dude. Good dude.
yeah. He's a good guy.
FPO side. I was battling inside on the last hole because I had my two Finnish ladies,
Yeah,
Evelina and Hannah, battling
yeah,
down the stretch, and Evelina. I'm not going to say I was crying, but I could have been.
yeah.
Evelina getting the win.
I was very excited for her getting the win. That's awesome. So that's her second win of this year. And,
Hmm.
and am I correct in saying that the only 3 pro players that have more than one win is Anthony Barella, Kristen Tatar, and now Evelina, right? Is there anyone else who's gotten 2 wins?
I mean, I believe that's it because Missy, she
Yeah.
just won the major, and I believe that's it.
Yeah. So only 3 pro players, and now she's joined the group. So we have
Hmm.
Kristen with 3, Anthony with 3, and now Evelina with 2. So
And that was her second major, which I
yeah,
didn't know she had a first one, but it's
yeah,
been.
I didn't either.
They said it was the third longest time between major wins. I think it was 2019 when she got her last major win.
I thought they said it was 2018, but I can't
Okay, it
remember.
might have been 18, but the
2018 or
longest.
2019.
I think the longest they again. Gosh, I should have wrote this down. Doggone it! But I think they said the longest was Elaine King was like 9 years or something in between
Oh
major
wow.
wins. I think there was something like that. I'm probably wrong. So if someone wants to
Yeah.
fact check, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, but Henna or Evelina winning both would have been awesome. I really
Mhm.
want Henna to win this year. I really hope she does.
I was just thinking though, going into that last hole, I was like, if she bogeys, her and her best friend are going to be going for a major, and one person has to take it from the other. Like, no,
Yeah.
don't do that.
Yeah.
And when Own, your buddy, when she tied Hannah on the last hole, I was like, oh, okay, Evelyn, just go ahead and take it now.
Yeah.
But I would love
Yeah.
to see Own win too, a
Yeah.
major.
Oh, I know. I was thinking the same thing. Like Owen winning would be amazing as well.
And Silva Saarinen, she's going to be really good.
Yeah. It's so cool to see so many people up at the top that you're like, oh, I would be really happy if any of these people, like, I
Mm-hmm.
would love for any of these ladies to win.
Silva, gosh,
I want
I don't
Silva to
want her
win
to
too.
win
Like,
yet. I don't want her to win yet
oh, why not?
because did you see her get interviewed?
No.
She looks terrified. You know, I mean, one, she doesn't really know the language real well.
Yeah, that's what
But after the
I
first
heard.
round, they said they asked her, she was what 500 in the first round. She said, they had said, do you think anyone can get 10 under? She was like, I don't know, but not me.
Aw. I actually didn't see it. I did hear some people talk about it, and that
I was like,
like
I felt
I
so
heard some
bad.
people say that maybe they could have like prepped her better or something,
Yep.
or I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean,
I mean,
I feel bad for her, especially with like the language barrier
mhm,
and everything that can make things really challenging. So
yeah, it's
yeah,
one of those
I'd love
things.
to see her win too. I
It's
hope
one of
she
those,
wins this year.
you just want to go up to her like a big brother and give her a hug, but he'll be okay. He'll be okay. The mean man with the microphone won't come back.
Yeah, they shouldn't
I
have
mean, they
made
were
her
being very
talk
gentle with
anyway.
her,
We'll
but it was
just
just
yeah,
I felt bad for her.
yeah.
Let's see what other highlights did we have this week. Simon Lazat just
Yeah,
became a dad again. This time, baby girl Mia.
baby girl.
So that's awesome. Congratulations, Simon and your wife. Which
It's very exciting.
I don't know her name, and I feel bad about that. I'm sorry, Ms. Lazat.
I thought you said it was like Mia or something. I don't know.
Mia's the daughter, the baby that they just had.
Oh, his son. Yeah, I can't remember either.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what his wife's name is. So,
Oh yeah,
uh,
no, I don't know.
all right. Now, this one I thought was really interesting on commentary. At one point, they showed a graphic with Paige Pierce, 17 career majors. And I'm sorry, I got to post this right quick. Does Mia have a PDGA number yet?
Good question.
But in second place in most career majors on FPO is Valerie Jenkins,
Yeah.
17 to 16. And Valerie said, well, maybe I'll come back and do something about that. And
Yeah.
and you hear that Terry, he's like, oh, are we announcing a comeback?
Yeah.
And she said, um, was it National Women's Disc Golf Day or National Women's a World
Women's global event, maybe.
yes, she said she will be entering that.
Yes. Although
So
that's not major, but yes.
yeah, I was like, oh, you got us, Val.
I am going to be playing a women's global event as well. If anybody who's watching that's a lady, go look up where the women's global event will be. It happens every 2 years, and they have an event that, yeah, is pretty much for the women and very exciting. So go find one near you.
Yes, I mean, I'm personally not going to enter that, but
That's probably a good thing.
exactly. I think that's about it from this week of disc golf. What is next for Acebabieee?
So DDO in Emporia, Kansas, the Dynamic Disc Open. So a lot of first, because last year all I played was actually well, I'll get back to that in a little bit. So I played Las Vegas which of course is no longer a part of the Pro Tour this year.
Oh,
Then I played the Open at Austin and then Texas States. And then I had to drop from the Music City Open last year because I figured out I had that huge mass, and then that ended up being cancer. And my appointment with the specialist, the guy that ended up doing my surgery and removing the mass, was that Friday of Music City Open. So I actually ended up entering another like little tournament, the Queen Bees, actually, that was like a 1 day 2 round tournament on that Saturday that I went to in like Orlando or something. And then the following weekend, or maybe the weekend after that, my mom actually flew down to like be with me for everything, and then she drove with me to North Carolina, and I played the North Cove. I played at North Cove, or what was it called? Blue Ridge something at North Cove. But anyway, that was a Silver Series event last year, but that one's also not a Disco Pro Tour. So this year, Jonesboro was new, and then of course I had to drop that. I didn't get to play Music City Open again. I had to withdraw from that one again. And yeah, and of course I'd never played Champions Cup, so that's my first time playing that. And yeah, so a lot of firsts. So DDO, this will be my first time playing this tournament. Like last year, I played the Gladstone Open amateur in FA1, and that was, I believe, I think that may have been my very last tournament before like surgery. But I may have had like one other after that, but it was miserable. Like I did not feel good at all. So my last time in Emporia was being in a ton of pain, not feeling well at all, needing surgery, being on like narcotics because of the pain. It was a bad experience. So I'm really excited to go back, and then also to play the Disc Golf Pro Tour side of things. Although I do hear that the course is like a ball golf course there as well. So we'll see. We'll see how
I
that
think,
goes.
I mean, from what I've seen from previous years, it's got some bomb holes, but it also has some very technical shots as well.
That's it.
I mean, like hole one, for example, because they changed it a couple years ago, and the first hole is basically a do you go for it or do you lay up? Because the green is like a big square box, and I believe they put it wasn't gravel they put in it, but something so it won't really skip out. But if you don't land it in that, it's OB. But you can lay up before like this little creek.
I wonder if I played that course then for one of my rounds. Yeah, actually, I think maybe I did.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they changed it up, because it definitely wasn't the first hole. It was like the two, three, it was like the fourth hole
Mm-hmm.
that I played. Yeah, well, if we're playing that one, then I guess I've already played that course. I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll
Well,
see.
I mean, gosh, what'd they call it? Was it a gold? Because I think there was multiple courses, and they kind of like on this property, and they kind of put some of
Yeah.
the holes together to make
Yeah.
the Pro Tour.
Yeah, I actually think you're right. Yeah, so maybe there are like multiple courses. So maybe I will have played part of it, because that
Mm-hmm.
hole in particular, I know what you're talking about, and we did play that hole.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it'll be that I've played some of the holes and that I haven't played some of the holes. I think, yeah, I think that is the case. But yes, I did not do very well the last time I was in Emporia, but I'm looking forward to going back. And Emporia, Kansas is like really cool for disc golf. They are all about disc golf. Like
There
they
are
are
courses
all about disc golf.
everywhere.
Well, yeah, and even their town and their city, like the mayor is involved in it. Like everybody is so supportive of disc golf, and like the businesses seem very simple, like more so than any place that I've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool. They seem and of course, Dynamic, their headquarters is there, and
Yep.
their factory is there and everything. And so you can go there and see a lot of cool things. They have like a museum sort of thing that you can go in and see a bunch of different popular discs and trophies and shoes and other things, and that's pretty cool. And then you can go in and like stamp your own disc and things like that. Yeah, and I was really impressed. What I obviously, this is a different tournament. I went to the Glass Blown Open, but I was really impressed with what we got in the players pack. Like we got one of their ranger bags. I think we got like multiple discs. We got this really nice rain jacket that I used this entire weekend and that I've used in a lot of tournaments. We got multiple things. Like it was a really cool AM tournament. Like I wish I would have been feeling better, but I felt like they did a great job.
Yeah, my friend Chris, his wife was a traveling nurse, and she was in Kansas, so he took the drive up there, and he was going to play the course, and he was like, "Dude, it's a wind tunnel there. It's just wind, wind, wind." And he said after like the third or fourth hole, he's like, "I'm done. I am done."
I do remember it being pretty windy, so I am gonna have to evaluate that in terms of like whether I'm gonna use my backhand, how is my backhand feeling, switching discs out, trying to figure that out, because with getting back my backhand, I think we talked about this last time, I'm using a lot flippier of discs than I would have used before. So that definitely will get me into a lot more trouble if there's a lot of wind. So that's going to be an important factor in this tournament. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. We'll see how it plays out.
All right, Yuli.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he was there, he's like on the side of this one building, it's a big mural with a big disc golf on it. It says Emporia, Kansas, the big disc golf stuff there. It's like that's pretty sick. That is pretty sick.
They're all
one of my
about
friends, he also said in heavy winds, he always said you're supposed to go more overstable. And my always thought is, well, wouldn't that depend on what direction the wind is blowing?
Yes, definitely. But usually you will have headwinds at times when the wind is blowing. So
yeah, because he said he said it doesn't matter. You always use overstable. I'm like, well, that doesn't even make sense.
If it's a direct tailwind, then for sure you could use a less stable disc. But then you're like switching around discs. So who knows? Maybe it's more worth it to just throw in a tailwind to throw much more Anheuser. Like that's really dependent on what you're most comfortable with, and how you're willing to attack the problem.
I mean, since I don't have that in my game, but I'm working on it. Baby steps. Baby steps. Let's see.
It's all on the hips. Just bend.
And the discs you have, we got these.
Yes.
Well, let me phrase that. You have these. If you need any information on it, you can message me on Instagram or just go straight to Acebabieee on Instagram. She will set you up with those. And coming up, we have pins and porcelain miniatures.
Yep, ceramic miniature minis that will have my stamp on it.
That is awesome. Anything else?
Not that I can think of. Just obviously Neptune discs. I'll also have some fundraiser discs through them before too long. So still waiting to hear back when those will come out. So
nice. And
excited for DDO this coming week. We're going to travel tomorrow. I'm probably going to play a league with Ashley Pickett. She's there in St. Louis, so we'll drop by there and then we'll head on to Emporia. Gonna stay with some friends there, so that'll be really nice. And and then after that, it's back to Nashville, Tennessee.
What's in Nashville?
The Amateur Music City Open. So I've decided, since my rating's still a good bit lower, that I will try to take down that A tier one last time. Or I assume it'll be one last time. I can't imagine that I would play that next year.
Well, I just want to see you stand there, the whole time. You're like with a trophy the whole time. It's happening. If you believe it, you can achieve it. It's going to happen. So that's all we got today.
All we got.
You guys?
Oh, we got a cool
Oh, wait, what?
shirt.
Wait, does it have your name on it?
So no, this one doesn't have my name on it. But
Oh,
so you did ask me about whether I took the sign or not.
yes, that I actually had
So
that in my notes.
I didn't know for sure whether we could or not, but then I saw some of the other FPO players post about it, and I was like, oh man, I need to do that. So I texted Leah and Rebecca Duffy, and I was like, can you get this for me? And then Leah texted me back, and she was following lead card, I think, for MPO, and she was like, yeah, I can grab it for you. So I was like, thank you so much. So I will. It seems like I will be able to have that sign as like a souvenir from Champions Cup.
Because I saw, I mean, you posted that. Then after the event, I saw,
Canadian player.
who was it? I think it was Ella Hansen. She had one, and I was like, oh wait, you could take those? I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because I don't think they'd be using it for any other events because those are like how we got into the event.
Oh, okay,
There are
gotcha.
some people that maybe got in like off the wait list, but I
Mhm.
automatically had a spot in Champions Cup because of my win at NADDT. So that's what those signs were for. They were for each person. Like this is how they got a spot in the tournament.
So that's over the last year.
Yeah, like so it's from like last year.
Okay, okay.
So if you win certain tournaments this year, then
Mhm.
those tournaments could get you into next year's Champions Cup.
What do you think about not being able to play at WR Jackson?
Yeah, that's pretty sad. I really hope that they can go back there. They definitely, I don't know the whole situation, but it definitely, they've made it sound like they were going to be going back there eventually, and this was just a very temporary thing.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously, I've never played it. I've never even got to experience it, so I would really, love the opportunity to be able to play that course. But we'll
They are
see.
auctioning off right now a bunch of the signs, a bunch of the baskets.
Oh, okay.
So I'm hoping that they get it back. I mean, I've heard they are, but I'm like, why are you selling everything if you're going to put it back? It doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
that doesn't make sense.
So, but there is an auction out there, and one of the things that they were talking about is Isaac Robinson. He's trying really hard to win the 18th basket from when he won last year,
Yeah.
and he said there's a big bidding war on that one on the 18th basket.
Wow.
It's like, yeah, I would try to win too, but that's just me.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Hmm. Well, okay, I'm gonna close it out again, and that's all we got. And you guys have an incredible day.